Welcome to Get the Elephants Out of the Room. I'm Chris Webber. We all have to deal with difficult people at work, difficult managers, difficult colleagues and difficult customers. In this podcast, we share stories and experiences of people like you who face these challenges and share their secrets to success. Our mission is to help everyone overcome obstacles and to become more confident, better communicators. So sit back and relax while we unravel the mysteries of another difficult person. Today on the podcast, I've got a brilliant guest. I think it's going to be a brilliant conversation, and it's a great story of coincidence and life circling itself. We met actually at a children's party, which is where we first connected, and then reconnected through LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago after Martin sent a really insightful comment on something that we'd previous episode. So it's brilliant that you found some time to talk to us, Martin.
Oh no, thanks very much indeed, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here. It really is.
So before we get started, do some introductions. Tell the audience who you are and what you do.
Okay, so as Chris said, my name is Martin Comte. I run two businesses at the moment. I run my keynote speaking business called MLC Speaks, and I'm also a partner in a other business called The Leadership Guys, where we work with teams and individuals facilitating leadership development stuff, which is absolutely brilliant. Love it.
So you do leadership development stuff. Tell us a bit about some of your philosophy, some of the ways of thinking that you bring to that.
Yeah, that's a great. So I guess it all stems back from the way that I phrase it is when I first became a leader, I got the badge before I got the toolkit. So I was good at the task. You've probably heard this many times before, Chris. I was really good at the job. They went, right, so now we want you to lead the team. Go. And I kind of didn't know what I was doing. And I was looking at people around me, and some of them were good and some of them were not so good. But I didn't almost have any frame of reference. So as I became more experienced, I kind of thought about, right, if I had some pointers, some guidelines, a framework to base my leadership experience on, what would it be? So in 2017, I ended up writing a book with my ex-business partner, Elizabeth Fox, called The 10 Golden Rules of Leadership. And it was all about, you know, all the leadership mistakes that I'd made and what I'd learned along the way so that I could almost stop other people falling into the same traps as I did.
Yeah. And isn't it amazing how much we learn from the mistakes that we make? And to me, it's such an important aspect. When I think about difficult people, difficult customers, difficult colleagues, difficult managers, all the examples that I come up with are people that I've worked with, my experience, and the profile fits lots of other scenarios. And I remember growing up as a manager or colleague or whatever and experiencing stuff and then saying to myself, I definitely don't want to do that. I hated how they made me feel. I hated how it impacted the group of people that I was working with. That's not what I'm going to be. But we don't often have the other. We sometimes come up with a great manager, but because it feels good, we don't notice it as well. It's just something the way that we're primed, isn't it? That we're primed to remember the bad experiences and to avoid them, but we don't necessarily have the golden rules, the things that we should follow.
Yeah, no, it's a really good shout. I guess, you know, you made me think about my career, and I was, in inverted commas, lucky. So the first manager I got was really people focused, and I got a quite, you know, she wasn't perfect. None of us are, but ostensibly she put the people first, and I saw the levels of motivation and engagement and discretionary effort she got from people. And this was in a call center environment, so it was, you know, easy to not be like that. And she stood out against 15 other team leaders, and her team were consistently high performing, not because we were any better at the task per se, but how we were led, how we were managed.
Yeah. And was that a big part of your foundation for those 10 golden rules?
Maybe more so than I logically think. I probably based the 10 golden rules more on what I was doing or what Elizabeth was doing, because it was, you got to feel the reaction of when you got it wrong. It's
Yeah.
easy, you know, like you said, when someone gets it right, you just feel good. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's less about you. It's less easy to, you know, identify exactly what they do. You just know that you like working for them. It's only when you think about it in, you know, a few years down the line that you're like going, oh, they did that. That was that little thing. I'm going to take that and add that to my toolkit. That's the thing for me that's really made the difference.
So before we get out, and we're going to start a conversation in a second about difficult people that you've worked with. You said just now you look in the eyes and you see what, you know, I've got it wrong. What did I get wrong? Is there anything that jumps to mind of something that you did where you had this realization of I got that just didn't work for me?
Oh, yes. I remember many years ago working with somebody, and I was pretty new to leadership at that point, and I am I have a huge preference for extroversion. I'm an activist learner. Let's just go by doing. And I was working with this colleague doing something quite new, and I was really excited. And I was like, right, let's just go for it. Let's just do it. It's going to be brilliant. And her reaction was, what? And I was like, right, we're going to go and do this. And we're just going to go and chat to them, and it's going to be brilliant. And I was really excited. And her first question was, yes, but what time are we starting? And her logical sequential brain couldn't compute that I was, you know, she was like, well, where's the script for the session? And I've got 4 bullet points and it's only half a day. And she was like, yeah, but what do you want me to say at 9:20? And I'm like, well, I don't know. It's, do you know what I mean? And to be fair, Chris, it took me quite a long time because at first I blamed her completely. I was like, she's
It's no
negative,
problem.
she's difficult. Why is she not getting it? It was almost like, why is she not like me? And oh, to be fair, it was a few years later that I suddenly went, oh, she wasn't from a leadership perspective, and I talk a lot about hats.
Yeah.
From a leadership perspective, I wasn't wearing the hat and I was making it all about her rather than looking in the mirror.
Yeah, and that's a big part of my book. The getting the elephant out of the room is difficult people. We point the finger and go, this person doesn't get it, and the truth is, it's reciprocal. They
Yeah.
don't get us, and if we ask the difficult people we've experienced, more often than not, they'll say, yeah, yeah, they're difficult, and it's because we're just so stuck in our own world. It's I think that to me is such a fundamental piece of insight,
Mm.
and I love that you get back to it. I remember having a moment as a young leader really stuck with me of what I did wrong, and it was such a huge thing. I took pride when I first took on my job as a leader to be honest with people, give them feedback, let them know where they stand. Because I'd worked with people in the past and I had managers who were very, let's say, political. So everybody
Mm-hmm.
got positive feedback. And to me, it felt like dishonest. And I hold honesty quite close to my heart. So when I first got my first manager's job, I gave people feedback. So if things didn't go well, I would say things didn't go well. I had a conversation with one of the team. She was relatively new and she was learning the role. And I had to call her out for something. And I said, look, we tried to do this thing. It didn't go very well. You were a bit disorganized and whatever. And so I said to her, this piece of development feedback, things you need to do better. And I said to her, but there was something that I noticed that was really good. And she said, yeah, what was that? And I said, right now, on the top of my head, I cannot remember what it is. I just, my mind had gone black, but there was something yesterday that you did that I thought, oh, that was really good. And a few months later, she resigned from the job. She decided it wasn't for her. She resigned from the job. And she pointed to that moment and she said, that really hurt me. That you remembered the stuff that I wasn't good at and you forgot the thing that I was good at. And it really hurt. And I was like, oh, I see that. That is so, I felt awful about it, and it stuck with me. And as a leader, that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's just kind of, we do learn from the errors, the obvious errors we make.
It's funny that you should say that. So there's two things that pop into my mind. Firstly, bit of shameless promotion. It's the title of our second book. So it's the thing that I work with, Ben and I, my business partner, work with more leaders and organizations about than anything other, is the ability to give and receive feedback with our leadership hats on. And it's a skill, but it's almost, as soon as we get the badge, we're expected to do it. It's almost like it's an osmosis skill, and it isn't. It takes loads of time and practice. And and then whenever, I was talking about this to a group the other day, when anybody hears the word feedback in work, they automatically think bad news. If a leader goes up to somebody at work and goes, "I've got some feedback for you," the first intrinsic response is somebody is an internal expletive. Yeah. What have I done wrong?
Yeah.
And actually, and this is something that I see, because Ben and I do quite a lot of work in education, and it's a totally different thing. And Ken Blanchard talks about this a lot, and he's a massive hero of mine. He talks about the ability to catch people doing stuff right, to embed behaviour. And he talks about a 7-to-1 principle. But I know I'm guilty of this still. It's really easy because, with our leadership focus, we want to improve and make things better and point out those things and have some of those difficult conversations, but we don't do the other side of it, which actually turns feedback into a natural thing rather than a management process.
Yeah. Fascinating. Really, really powerful stuff.
So we give it all the time outside of work, right? We give it all the time outside of work. My colleague Ben's amazing at it, and we get special treatment in loads of places because he makes people feel special. He'll give them some feedback. He'll speak Polish when, we're in Poland or we're in a bar and he recognizes, and they'll all go, "Oh, wow." And he'll ask. It's because people matter. That's the whole underpinning.
And making people feel important. It's funny how status really matters to us all. We want to gain status. We want to feel important. We want to feel special. And what we do often with others is we try to push them down. So we try to gain our own status by pushing others down, by kind of making them feel small, pointing out the problems, the mistakes that they've made, that kind of stuff. Whereas actually the way to really make people feel good, to be positive, to influence them, is to make them feel special, make them feel really good. And I'm a big believer in compliments. I'm so often, over the years, I've gotten into the habit of saying thank you to people. So when I negotiate deals, people make a proposal. Thank you for that proposal. When a client agrees that they're going to do a project with me, I will say, "I'm really excited," because I am excited. And thank you for that. There's so many people who are like, "But you want to be cool, right? You want to be, why would you say that you're really excited?" I'm like, because it's amazing. They've made a choice to work with me, and I'm very excited about that. And you tell people, and they go, they feel good about it. What they certainly don't do is feel bad about it.
Yeah. But I guess it's also reciprocated as well. So it's when you start doing it, one of the golden rules is if you want someone to demonstrate a behavior, go there first. So actually, if you're demonstrating it and those words and pictures match, other people are more likely to also do it and also try and catch people doing stuff right. And especially in a team environment, I've worked not as the leader, but in a team where we were, helping each other out, discretionary effort, catching people doing stuff right. And I loved going to work every day. I loved it. I loved it. I had the best boss who basically said to me, "My job, I brought you in as an expert. It was only a few years ago. I brought you in an expert. My job is to provide you air cover. That's it. Go and do your job. I'm here." It was, and then would find ways to catch me doing stuff right and point it out. And it was interesting because, this is a real important one for me. The differences in the team were, as an extrovert, as a person with a preference for extroversion, he would do that publicly because he knew that I'd like it. But then other people that were introverted, he'd never do it in public. So we'd still congratulate them, but do it in private, because that actually meant more to them than doing it in public. And
Totally,
that's one of
because
the
it's
big
an individual.
mistakes I've made. So yeah.
Do you know, I just had a call this morning with a client and follow-up development call, and we were talking about on individuals and connecting with individuals, and you just reminded me of something. And she said they were working with a team in the Middle East, and their business had made a choice, or was about to make a choice, on update emails. So an update email on, say, an approval from a regulatory body to say, yes, we can do this, and or a project is moving forward. They said, let's delegate that to an administrator. It's an administrative task. Send it out, circulate it around the organization that this has been achieved. And she said, no, don't. There's a person there who wants to send this email because their name is on it. I have achieved, I have led this team, I have led this project. By making it administrator, you take away that visibility from them, and that will hurt more than the time it takes them to craft this email. So this idea of like administration, you're too important to do this, actually was negative.
Yeah.
And again, it's just your point of that spotlight. You spotlight somebody in the way that they want to be spotlighted.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to, again, massive, talking about all my mistakes here, but that's what I remember. Somebody that I remember somebody that I led, again, not too early in my career, but had done a brilliant piece of work with a tricky client. And at a team meeting, I said, well done, that was a fantastic piece of work. I knew they were liked wine, so I bought them a really nice bottle of wine and I presented it to them, and everybody clapped and they all left. And he came up to me and I really expected him to say, oh, I really appreciate that, boss. And he went, don't ever do that to me again. Don't ever do that to me again. I felt so uncomfortable. He goes, I love doing my job, but it's my job and I love doing it. And he wasn't your lone wolf like you were talking about a few weeks ago. He was just, I don't like public praise. I love the bottle of wine, but you do that in private, not in public. And that was a massive learn for me. And it almost made me go, and again, I'm going to keep quoting them, the first golden rule of leadership is know your people, know your people, know your people. So it's not just their name or where they come from or how many kids they've got. That's level one. Level two is what they, and this goes back to what you were saying, what do they love about their job and what really hacks them off? And then the third level, and this is the one that takes time for leaders, is what really drives them, what's really important to them. So this guy, what's really important is I love to do a good job, but that's private and that's between me and you, and I don't want that public praise.
Yeah. Do you know, I know lots of people who, with a customer hat on, relationship with their customer, who take this idea of, I know the names of their kids and I know where they like to go on holiday, as being good relationship. And I challenge it and I say, no, it's not, that's not good relationship. That second point you make about what's important to them, what matters to them. If you don't know the name of their kids, it doesn't matter because you can still have an unbelievable relationship with them. And we confuse this often, particularly our own personality style. Like, I like people to know who I am. Doesn't mean that they do. And it's back to your point, know your people. But there's so many people I know who are like, I've got a great relationship. It's like, why? Because we go and have a great conversation. But they don't actually cut through and have a good conversation. But Martin, you said, you want to call out, you keep calling out your mistakes. Absolutely applaud the fact that you had a culture with a guy who immediately felt comfortable to come and tell you he hated that. That to me is a leadership goal.
And it's and I'm listening to one of your previous podcasts, is that it's really easy to put culture stuff on words on a wall, but it is how people feel and act, and that what I call cultural congruency. So I saw it once in my external world a few years ago, where I was in a fruit and veg wholesalers off the M25, and it was a terrible trip to get there, and I was getting lost even though I was only living 20 minutes down the road. And I got there and I was really was really flustered, hot and bothered. It was in the 3-piece suit days and I was awful. And I walked in and the lady behind reception, she was like, "Good afternoon, you must be Martin." And I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "Don't worry, I'll let Tony know you're here, but I'll just give him something to do to give yourself 5 minutes just to
Wow.
calm down." And I was like, she had no need to do that for me at all. But one of the
Yeah.
things on their culture board was, it still gets me, putting people first. What a demonstration of it.
Yeah.
What?
Again, it's another one of those behaviors that is up there, but what does it really look like? What
Yeah,
does it really mean to put
yeah,
people first?
yeah. And there's a part two to that as well, right? So Tony, the MD, came down from his office to meet me, not me being escorted up. So we're walking up these
Oh,
stairs, and a delivery driver came and stopped him on the stairs and said, "I'm sorry, Tony, I need a minute." Without batting an eyelid, Tony turned around to me and said, "Sorry, Martin, bear with me 1 second." And the delivery driver to his MD was talking about the problems that he had in his route, and the schedulers weren't listening to him. And the MD, Tony, went, "Leave it with me. I'll have a word with the schedulers. Cheers." And then we
just
carried
that
on.
level of humility and
Yeah.
engagement.
Yeah. And I was like to him, we were doing some coaching, and I was like, "I can't believe I've just seen that." And he was like, "What? What do you mean?" "We're fruit and veg people. That's what we do." And it was
Yeah.
almost the old Barabo culture of, there is no hierarchy like that. That's just what we do. If we've got a problem, we talk about it and we sort it out. And I was like, wow.
I've got a similar experience and a story similar where I walked through with a UK GM through through a warehouse, and he did something very similar. He did the opposite in the sense that he noticed something which was disorderly, and he said, "Chris, can you just wait here?" And he went and spoke to the warehouseman, and he said, "Well, he said to them, he came back to me and he said, we have customers who come and visit the site and stuff. I just want to make sure the standards are right." And the thing that really struck me about it was that it wasn't his job,
Mm,
but he cared so much about it that he stopped what he was doing to go and have a conversation with someone. And it was not to go like, "This is wrong," whatever, but he has such a standard for the work that he does that he instilled that standard across the organization, and he just
I
went and
love
spoke
that.
to someone. He didn't come out and go, "I need to speak to the head of the warehousing and get this dealt with." It was like, I'll just go and chat to the guys here and just
Mm,
similar experience, similar
yeah, no,
story.
I love that.
Yeah. So, Martin, let's get into talk about some of your difficult people that you've experienced in your career. Set the scene for us. Talk about who you want to share with us.
So when we had our initial chat, I was like, right, so and I hope this is for lots of leaders, who am I going to pick? Because throughout the last 30 years, there's been quite a few of them, Chris. And I can look at myself for every single one of them going, "Oh, I got that wrong, I got that wrong." But I guess the most challenging one, and I've had two roles, and it's been made explicit that I've been brought in to shake things up and change it. So I've been brought in specifically as a change agent,
Yeah.
and I kind of quite like that because it allows me to
Gives you
throw some
permission.
ideas. Yeah, it gives me
Yeah.
permission. Yeah, that permission needs to be congruent all the way through, which doesn't always happen. So shake
Mm-hmm.
things up as long as you don't shake things up with me. But look, that's a different
Different
conversation.
podcast.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
a
different
different.
podcast. So I was brought in to shake things up with a really established team that, in my humble opinion, had been poorly managed previously for quite some time. So they were able to do whatever they wanted. In my humble opinion, they thought they were better than they were in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
task achievement, but
Mm-hmm.
they were only used to hearing good news. So it goes back to your thing. They weren't telling them what they needed to hear. They were being told what they wanted to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this member of my team, really experienced and pretty good at the tasks and activities. Potentially not as good as they thought they were, but pretty good, and got decent feedback from clients. So this is in a learning environment. Um, the one thing I noticed, and I don't know if this is the same for most people, but it's not normally a big sort of like eruption of something. Those little behavioural little dinks that you notice, that the side of the desk comment, or the little, slightly rude email, or the rolling eyes in a meeting, or do you know what I mean? It's not one big
Yeah,
thing, but I
yeah.
started to notice time and time and time again that this was happening, and the rest of the team either nodded sagely when they were speaking, but those words and pictures didn't match either, or just looked away.
Just to set the scene there, it's a great way to set the scene. When I talk difficult people, often the what people are looking for is is the huge drama, is the barrier, is the conflict, is the huge moment, and that's not at all what I mean. And I had a client conversation this morning, and they said to me, "Oh, I haven't got any problems at the moment." I'm like, I don't. I don't. It's not problems that are the
Mm.
issue. It's the friction that's the issue. So continue, because I think it's just a great way to illustrate what we're really trying to get at when we talk about difficult people. It's not this big explosion.
It's almost that explosion bit is when it's almost gone too far. So the
It
explosion bit
has.
is what happens after like a year, 2 years, 5 years, and this person, I, I would say, was demotivated and disengaged for 5 years minimum. 5 years minimum. But no one had ever said anything to their face. So even people in the leadership team had an impression of this person, but never said anything. So I was like,
Wow.
right. So I've been brought in this team to change things. I knew this person was really powerful. And I'm smiling because I did exactly what I advise other people not to do. Right. So I did the opposite of what I tell other people to do, which is, now putting it in the public arena, Chris. But I thought, right, they're really disengaged, they're demotivated. I'm going to motivate and engage them. So I'm going to ignore the little bits of bad behavior, and I'm going to go out of my way to engage them, to involve them in good stuff, to ask for their views and opinions. And I was patting myself on the back going, motivational boss.
Yeah, getting them to buy
Um,
in. Effectively,
yeah,
kind of, I'm going to buy their favor because I'm going to include them, make them feel important, make them feel special.
yeah.
Do you know what? It's a common strategy. I
Crashed
hear it
and
a
burned.
lot.
Crashed and burned.
Really,
Crashed
really.
and burned. Uh, this person, and again, they're clever, right? So in the moment, they would say ish the right thing. But then you hear the
Okay.
jungle drums afterwards, and literally, and this is a phrase that I use, so I apologize if this offends anybody, but it's totally apt. This person was a total coffee machine terrorist. So, you know, after meetings and stuff like that, would go and find somebody to influence and go, what a load of old tosh that was, or,
Oh,
can you believe it? We're back here again. It's not as good as it was in the old days. And would try and almost recruit people. I, they were, if you like Harry Potter, they were a bit like a dementor. They kind of sucked the life and energy out of other people till everybody else was like,
yeah.
but they became incredibly powerful without the
How?
title.
How do they become powerful? Because people listen to this person, or
Yeah,
because?
people listened to them, and when they wanted to, they could ask really intelligent questions, but they
Hmm.
weren't seek to understand questions. They would just seek to win.
Oh, I'm going to show how smart I am by asking a question you
Yes,
don't know the answer to.
yes, and literally all the questions were, "I'm going to catch you out."
Hmm.
And I think also a lot of the team, and though they never would have said it to me, were actually quite scared and intimidated. And I let that happen by trying to placate them. So I
Did
gave them
you?
their air.
I was going to say, and did you effectively kind of build up their part? So you kind of made them more important because you gave them space to speak and kudos in what they did. That then other people felt, oh, Martin likes this person. Martin must agree with them. And so you kind of made it worse then.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that I agreed with them and bigged them up, but I validated their contribution. So I
Yeah.
think previously they were just dismissed. So I wasn't dismissing them. I was going, well, that's really interesting. Tell me a little
Yeah.
bit more. Where other people previously just gone, just
Let's move on. Yeah.
just move on. And I thought, and if if they were seek to understand questions and I want to be involved, I think that would have been a really good strategy. But I misread what the intention of that other person's was, and that also goes back to my, I didn't know them very well. Goes back to my know your people, know your people, know your people. I thought of them as somebody else that I'd led that had demonstrated that behaviour previously that was quite
Yeah.
easy to win over. So I was like, oh, I'll just do it again. But it didn't
Uh,
work.
do you know? And that's another thing that we do often with leadership and management and customer types is we box people and we
Yeah.
go, I know who you are, and so I'm going to
Yeah.
treat you the same way that I treated the last guy who seemed to tick those boxes the way you did. Just as you said, we fall in this habit of, oh, you're one of those guys. This is what you need. And I think that's one of those things that, as we get older and more experienced, really works against us. Like when you're
Mm,
young, curious, you're learning your role. Everything is new, and you listen and attentive. And as you get more experience, you get into these habits of like, oh, I've seen that before. This is what
yeah.
works. And I guess that's probably a huge trap we probably don't talk enough about.
Mm, yeah. There's I call it lensing. So I see someone through a lens that I've already created for myself.
Mm.
So if they're, I've been caught out before by the most amazingly supportive team member who was what I call a brilliant spectator who was clapping from the sidelines. And I was like, oh, I know someone like you, you're brilliant. And they, in fact, and this is going back a few years, they were another coffee machine terrorist. And it was really obvious, but I just wasn't seeing it because they were outwardly doing that. Oh, yeah, no, Martin, you're really good. This
Uh,
team's brilliant. But literally behind the scenes was going round and actively bad mouthing every decision that we'd made as a team.
oh, wow. So going back to your story, what was the
Yeah.
impact? What happened when you started this person making this impact on the organization? I guess, was there a moment where you realized this has not worked, and things were unraveling?
Yes, but I think the moment that I knew it wasn't working happened quite a long time before I did anything about it, if I'm
Oh,
really honest.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow,
Because it was
that
hard.
is interesting.
It's
Yeah.
hard. It was hard. And I think there was a case that lots of people around me, including in the leadership team and my boss, were just like, that's how they are. And I'm like, right, so I started to doubt myself. Am I getting this wrong? Should I just be letting this happen?
Yeah.
And then there was one day where I'll be honest, I just went enough. And they said, and we were on a one-to-one together
Yeah.
virtually,
Yeah.
and they said something, and I'm just going, I'm not accepting that. And they raised their voice and I raised my voice, and I'm like going, I'm not accepting that. That is completely unacceptable. You do not demonstrate that behavior in this team. And they were talking about, well, I need to be able to say what I want to be psychologically safe. And I'm like going, that what you are saying now demonstrates you don't understand psychological safety. Because you bad mouthing, that's not psychological safety, and you
Mm.
saying the organization is rubbish and I don't want to be here anymore, that's not psychological safety. That's
No.
just you venting. But
Yeah.
actually some of the behavior stuff was just really inappropriate, and I just said enough. And I said, look, if you want to come and complain and moan and shout at me, I'll take that. I'm absolutely fine with that. But you do not do that around other people, because I can see you are having an impact on other people's motivation and engagement. And I can't allow that to happen.
Mm.
But
Did
it
it
was
work?
it worked in the short term. It worked in the short term. Um,
Hmm.
it's one of those things that you have to almost, that change of behavior doesn't happen with one conversation. I
No.
think if I'm really honest and I look back on it now, and it was a few years ago, I think it, rather than it change the behavior, well, it changed the behavior on the outside. I don't think it changed how that person felt, which I still see as something for me as a leader. What could I have done differently? But I'm really glad that I had that conversation, because outwardly and to the rest of the team, that behavior stopped.
So did that mean it was better for the rest of the team to operate? Did it create a better environment for others around the table?
100%. 100%. Now, my development thing, and again, this comes out in the second book a little bit, the F word about feedback, was one of my jobs was, so I had people in the team coming to me and talking about that person, but I can't go and tell them because that's third party feedback, and that's culture killer all in itself. So I was
Right.
trying to develop my team to have the competence and the confidence to give these people, this person, these messages. So it wasn't just coming from me, it was coming from others. But even the leadership team that I was a part of, they were unwilling to do it too. So it was almost like I felt like a bit of an island,
Yeah.
but
And
it didn't
why?
stop me doing it.
So what was the fear that stopped people from going speaking to a clearly person who was disruptive?
It's a great, I don't, Chris,
Don't
I
know.
wish I had the answer, but it wasn't,
Yeah.
I could understand it from some of his peers because he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
such a dominant personality. And I, in my team of 12, I got 2 people to do it. But there was 9 other people who felt the same way, but didn't say
Yeah.
anything. So,
Yeah.
if you think about the strength of his data, he's like going, well, nine other
Just two
people don't,
people.
it was
It's
just 2
okay.
people. It was just,
Yeah.
and literally he say, it's just you, Martin. It's just you. And I'm like going, no, it isn't. I've got 13, 14, 15, even people on
Yeah.
the leadership team saying, and I'm like going, have you spoken to him? I had one client say it to me in the business, and he was like, oh yeah, he did this, but it wasn't like when you did it. But when I spoke to my team member, he was like, I was brilliant, they loved me. And I knew for a fact that the client didn't and wasn't going to
Oh.
invite them back. And the client goes, don't worry, I'll speak to him. Never did. And that's that whole culture thing. Again, that
Yeah.
goes back to some of those culture conversations. You can say, and I've seen this in so many organizations, we've got a feedback culture. You don't. You don't have a
Oh.
feedback culture because, just like in this fruit and veg, it was the first time I'd ever seen it where I was like, oh, I totally get the words on the wall match the behavior that I've seen in the first 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Do you know? I was thinking about the examples you said, and I don't believe that we can really change people. I think we can make people aware of their impact on others, and allow them to manage themselves. But if you're a person who, I don't know, for example, loves detail, and you're trying to work with someone who doesn't like detail, you're not going to be a person who suddenly stops liking detail.
No.
But what you can do is, be a bit more empathetic. Other people around you don't like that level of detail, so maybe the way you package it up can be different. And there's a couple of things I want to just mention is, so when I run a workshop, I say there's 2 things I'm doing on my workshop. First of all, is I want you to learn and to develop, and the second thing is that I want to make sure that this is a positive learning experience for the others, which means that I might call you out if your behavior is disruptive to others. So if we're doing a case study and you're not prepared because you were on the phone to someone else, and you come in and say, yeah, but I don't want to do this case, so I'm not that interested. That's my problem, because it's not what you want. You've now crossed a boundary into what other people want, and that's unacceptable. So there's kind of 2 agendas.
Yeah.
And I guess in a way, if you get them to manage their behavior, then you're starting to create a better environment for the others. There's one goal. They might never change their own feelings, but the fact that they are now a bit more controlled creates a better space for their colleagues. The other thing is, I am passionately against concepts like feedback culture and fail fast. they sell books because they're like newspaper headlines that people love to read newspaper headlines. They are a disaster for humanity. Nobody likes to fail. If you
Yeah,
say to anybody, this whole kind of concept that came out of Facebook and tech
yeah.
companies are like fail fast and break things and all that, complete nonsense. No one ever does that because psychologically, to sit in a meeting and do a debrief with your manager or with your colleagues and say what's gone wrong is just as humanity. We can't cope with it. We hate it.
Mm,
It shines a spotlight on our failings. What I talk about is a learning culture, and the learning culture is everything can be better.
yeah.
And I walked into a changing room as a rugby professional, 18 years old, coming from amateur, great standard amateur and junior rugby to professional for the first time, and being hit with a question that floored me, which was one of the first team players said to me, how do you rate yourself on that training session we've just done? We've all been on the training field together. And I said, I don't know, like 7 out of 10. And he goes, oh, interesting. What is it that you need to do to make it a 10 out of 10? And I had never been asked before, what's the space? And I think there is always a way to improve because people are different, circumstances are different. So what you said last time, if you say it again exactly the same way, won't work because it's a different time, it's a different day, it's a different situation. You need to learn from it. And if you say that my meeting was a 10 out of 10, it was absolutely perfect, then I want to know the evidence that you're using to say that that was absolutely perfect, because to me, that's almost impossible to get to. There is something you could have done better. If you can create that culture, then it's
Mm,
okay to have a conversation with a colleague. What did you
yeah.
think I could have improved in that meeting? Not, have you got any feedback for me? You said it earlier on. Feedback is this toxic thing.
Well, I say take the word out. You
Yeah.
don't use it outside of work. Don't use it in work. And I love that question. And I used to have when I was doing one-to-ones with my team. I used to have two questions that I asked them at the end of every one-to-one, every single one. So, give me an example of something that I do that really works for you and why. Give me an
Yeah.
example of something that I'm doing at the moment that really works for you and why. And typically people, and I'm like, thanks, that's really useful. Now, help me out. Give me an example of something that I'm doing that doesn't work for you and why. And
Mm-hmm.
typically, especially in our culture, it's slightly different around the world. You and I have both been lucky enough to work in different countries around the world. If you work somewhere like France, they'll just tell you. But in the UK, typically people will go, nothing, everything's fine. And you have to
Mm.
almost push to get the data. No, come on, I really need your help. I'm trying to improve. Give me
Yeah.
an example of something that I do that really doesn't really work for you. And the greatest one I ever had, Chris, I've got to share this with you. It's the greatest one I ever had. Was I was working with somebody back in mid 2000s, and me and him got on really well. I was his boss. He was really a really good team player. Got on really well, and I used to have me and him used to go out to Starbucks for our one-to-ones. Right, other coffee shops are available, but that was the closest one. And I've got no taste in coffee, but him and I used to go out to Starbucks for our one-to-ones, and that was a whole new concept for him. I was like, let's go out to the office. He was like, what? To take it out of that task environment. And
Yeah.
we'd go to Starbucks, I'd buy the coffees and I'd sit down and we'd have a little chat. And it was, 2005, so I had my mobile and my BlackBerry. And BlackBerry, I know people call them a crackberry, every time it went off, it used to buzz.
Yeah, it
And I
did,
used to
yeah.
look at it because it buzzed, and then I used to put it back down because my one-to-one with this guy was more important. And I said to him, "So what's the one thing? I'll use his name. He knows. What's the one thing, Matt, that I do that doesn't work? No, first of all, what's the one thing that I do that really works for you?" He goes, "Mart." He never called me Martin. Mart. I love the fact that I can come to you with any problem, and you'll always have time for me. You never leave me hanging. He goes, "I love that," and I was like,
Nice.
"Cool. I love that." And then he said, and then I said, "But what's the one thing that I do that doesn't really work for you, and why?" And he was like, "Nothing." I said, "Come on, Matt, there must be something." And he said, "Well, sometimes we have those conversations and I love them, but I walk away with no idea how we got there. So I say, yes, I'm going to go and do it because you've come up with the idea, but I have no idea of how you've done it. And sometimes I feel a bit stupid.
I
And I
want
was
to know the
like,
process.
what an amazing bit of data. Because if I'd just
Yeah.
left it at that previous bit, I would have been like, I'm just a good boss. But actually, it's such a beautiful link to what you were saying about, so what could I have done to improve on that? He's going
Yeah.
away happy, but I'm not developing him because the next time he's got the same problem, he'll come back and ask me
He's
the
going
same
to, yeah.
question. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
you'll,
was
and
like,
then you'll
oh,
feel frustrated because this guy's not learning, right?
exactly. And I was like, oh, Matt, you've got to tell me. You've got to tell me when I do that. That's brilliant. And I was just about to leave it, and I was like, it's Matt. And I went, what else? What else do I do? And he couldn't tell me. He couldn't tell me. But basically, we got to in the end, he goes, you say our one-to-ones are really important and the most important time of your week. And I was like, yeah. He said, so what do you do when we get here? And I said, well, we'll buy the coffees, we sit down and have a chat. And he says, what do you do with your BlackBerry and your mobile? And I said, I put them down. And he goes, and when your BlackBerry buzzes? I said, I look at it and I turn it back down. And he said, right. So if my one-to-one was important as you say it is, you wouldn't even have it out on the table. That killed me. But it was that one little thing. And so words and pictures weren't matching. I was saying all these things about Matt's one-to-one being important, but that little action, unintentional action that I was doing by looking at my BlackBerry was taking all of the impacts of that one-to-one away from Matt.
Yeah.
What
That's
a great
huge.
bit of data. And I just changed it for everybody. I didn't ask it. I did it with everybody.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I never did my
Phone
one-to-ones
was in the
after
bag
that.
or something.
In the bag.
Yeah. Do you know, it's so humbling when that happens, when somebody does that to you. Do you know who I learned that lesson from? You reminded me telling that story. My son. When my son was 18, he was away at school, and I would go and visit him for coffee and stuff. I'll go out for dinner, and I remember one day, I'm sitting across the table from him. I think over dinner, and his phone buzzed. And he was like 18, 19. So, of course, their phone buzzes all the time. He picked up his phone, and I thought, oh, here we go. He's opening WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever. And he flicked down, he put it on silent, and he put it in his pocket.
Wow.
And I was like,
wow.
Whoa, from the mouth of babes, right, comes the truth. So, and it's just you just reminded me of it because it's the same thing that I was like, oh, he's just going to open his phone and it's fine. Because I'm his dad. I understand he's got his friends, and he just went. And it's the same. It must have been the same impact that you made with your team when you said, right, phone's in the bag, you don't even see it.
Yeah,
amazing, right?
And we made that into a team meeting rule. So we had this thing. This is again one of the things that I developed for dealing with team dynamics and creating that culture within the team called operating principles. And we as a team created our set of operating principles, almost the rules in which we lived our team by. And it was no phones and Blackberries out on the table. We had a guest into one of our team meetings, quite a senior person in the organisation. And 20 minutes in, I'm talking about something at the front, and they get their BlackBerry out. And my EA tapped him on the shoulder, goes, "I'm really sorry, we don't do that in here."
Not
and I'm
in
like,
here. Live in the culture. Awesome.
Oh my word. And 9 months before, we were all doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But just that. But the team decided on what those operating principles were. So they created them. They're much easier to live by. And that,
totally.
Again, it was just it was 20 years ago, but it was a beautiful moment.
Oh, that's power. I love that. So before we wrap up, a couple of things I just want to cover off, Martin. Let's go back to your difficult character. What are the lessons that you take out of that for today, for the teams that you're working with, for people who are listening, knowing this coffee machine terrorist is there?
The first thing, and again, it is one of the golden rules, and because of my own personal preference, I let it slide. One of the golden rules is never negotiate on behaviour. So never negotiate on it. As soon as you see something, say it. Whether it's something that you want to compliment somebody on, something that you want them to continue doing to catch people doing stuff right, or if it's something that you need them to change, you address it straight away. The more you leave it saying nothing, there's a phrase, and I can't remember what you permit, you promote. And I was promoting it by not dealing with it. So number one for me is address it in private, not in public.
Yeah.
So you don't do that embarrassment thing. Just, can I have a word with you afterwards? Bang, do it like that. And the second one, another big one, and this came as almost as a result of that, is, right, does everybody know what good looks like in your team? Do they have that level of clarity and certainty about what's acceptable and what isn't? And that's where the whole concept of operating principles came in. And thirdly, how do you encourage the team? You have to work with a team to hold each other to account, and you. So it's not just about you as the leader doing it, it's everybody doing it. And if you can get those three things right, and they're not easy and they take time, but they're incredibly powerful, and they don't just improve the dynamics and the motivation in the team. I've seen them improve the results. So if you're really focused on the results, and it's really easy to be that task focused and results focused, but from a leadership perspective, and this is my underpinning belief about leadership, because people matter. So you start with the people. If you get the people bit right, really right, the results will follow. But we tend to do it the other way around because the task doesn't get moody. So we need to switch the balance around.
I love that phrase. The task doesn't get moody. Oh, I'm going to steal that, Martin. Steal with pride.
I got it from a guy in supply chain logistics back in 1999. He said, we talk about leadership and management, and he goes, the reason why management's easier than leadership is the task doesn't get moody. And I love that.
Oh, I love it. It's brilliant. And it does explain so much about conversations we avoid, issues we don't deal with, allowances we make, priorities we focus on. Yeah, it's such.
And then the only time we have those conversations at the end of year reviews, when we have to, and it's a management process.
Yeah, it's a system.
So it's still not about the people.
Yeah, it's about me ticking a box. Great stuff. Some real insights, Martin. Please talk to the audience about where people can find your book. Your new book is not out yet, or is out?
My new book's not out yet. Okay. So 10 Golden Rules of Leadership still available. Amazon and all other good book retailers. If you get a copy, love to know what you think. Just about to find a publisher for book 2, tentatively titled The F Word. Everything you need to know about giving and receiving feedback. And you can find me at martinlecomte.com. My business is MLC Speaks, and we're just creating our new business, The Leadership Guy. So I do keynote speaking on leadership and team development, and we run sessions for businesses and organizations specifically for middle leaders rather than executives, about enhancing that leadership capability to help develop, motivate, and inspire the people that you lead.
Fabulous, Martin. And we'll put all your links, your LinkedIn and your website stuff into the show notes. And hopefully, people will want to connect with you. That's been an inspiring and brilliant conversation. That 50 minutes has just gone in a flash.
I've loved it.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Brought back loads of memories as well. I'm going to go and have a coffee now.
Martin, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Thanks for listening. I hope you took away some useful insights. Join us again next time when we unpick the behaviours of more difficult people. Until then, take care and see you soon.